What do most people do when they're about to start working on a project? I know what I used to do. I used to open up my terminal. I used to cd into whatever project I wanted to work in, for example, Orion. And then I, like almost everybody else, would just go ahead and type clot dash dash dangerously skip dangerous skip permissions, right? So, and then once I was in this interface, I would start working. I would say, hey, and then I would describe the task, and then Claude would do this for me. But what happens if I want to work on more than one task at the same time? Well, then what I used to do was I used to open another tab, and then I would type the same thing again, give or take dangerous skip permissions, and then I would type task number 2, and then I would press enter. I would wait for this, and then while I was waiting for this, what I would do is I would open another one, and then I will go Claude, and so on and so forth until I have like 7 or 8 tabs open. Oh, but what happens if I don't only use Claude? What happens if I also use Codex and I want GPT 5.6 solve for some things? Well, in that case, one of my tabs would be Codex. Or rather than using the CLI, what I was normally doing is I would have the ChatGPT or the Codex desktop app, which was infinitely better than the CLI. So So basically, I have my Claude instances here, say about 5 of them running several tasks in parallel. And then I have my Codex instance also running several tasks in parallel. In the Codex instance, it would be infinitely easier to track all of the tasks because of the nature of the sidebar. So you can have different projects, and then you can have different threads under each project. But this is only Codex. This is only the OpenAI models. There's nothing else here. So if I want a Claude, then I'd have to go to Claude. But wait a second. What happens if you have more than this? What happens if you also have, I don't know, say Grok build, and you want to use Grok 4.5 or Grok 4.6, which is imminently coming out? Well, then you have to go to your CLI again, and then you have to type Grok build, and then say 5 more terminal tabs. Something solid like CMOX to an extent, but not exactly, because you still have the tabs and you still have the terminals, and then you don't know which one is which, and you don't know which one's working on and which one's finished, and then you can't really track the projects as well as you really wanted to. And it's still a terminal, so you can't stuff, for example, the Codex desktop app in there. And then on top of that, say file everything else, I have Kimi. Again, 5 more terminal tabs, right, for these tasks. Then I have what else do I have? Quen, I don't have Quen, but you get the point, yeah? It's we're an infinite terminal hell. And even worse, what happens if I want to work on several tasks in parallel using different agents, and they work on the same file or similar features? So then you just step on each other's feet and nothing gets done, and the resulting file is full of errors because you just can't use 2 agents to work on the same file or the same feature. So in that case, most people would say, oh, well, why don't you just make a work tree? But then work trees are horrible because it takes ages to copy the files over. That's one issue. The second issue is that work trees naturally don't inherit your env file, which means that if you rely on the env file for some variables that you would normally have in your local dev, the worksheet would be unusable because there would be no env file since it abides by the gitignore file. And then you'd have to manually copy that over, and you've just wasted like what, 5 to 10 minutes doing that. Not a good solution. Not a good solution. So what I have been doing recently is I have been using my own solution for coding because I was frustrated with the state of things as they currently were. So I made Orion. Orion is my own open source solution to all of the pains I have just described. What does Orion do? Well, Orion has a list of projects similar to what you would find in the Codex app. It has a list of projects. So here is me working on Orion itself. Then I have several other projects going on, like the Orion Web, which we'll talk about in a bit. I have Usmera, I have Durango, for all of your AI chat needs. I have QSide. I have a bunch of 3D games like Construction Kids, Voxel Dash. I have Metaloot. All of my projects are here, and I can add more with a simple click of this button, which will just add a folder. Now, what's good about Orion? Well, you can use all of your providers here. So you can use your Grok, you can use your OpenAI models, which gives you OpenAI 5.6 Sol and the rest of them. You can use your Anthropic models, which gives you Fable, Opus 5, everything else that Anthropic provides. You can use your Kimi models here. As of yesterday, I have integrated Metacode as well, so you can use your Muse Spark 1.2 if you wanted to. I haven't played around with it too much, but I intend to. But I've put it here because I just thought it was pretty cool. See? Aside from that, what else can you do? You can use your cursor models here as well. Literally all of the models Cursor provides, you can use here. And then you can use OpenCode. I don't have OpenCode installed on my computer, so I can't give you an example, but yes, you could use OpenCode here as well. So all of these in a single interface. And why is that cool? Well, because every single thread is getting tracked on your sidebar. So you can now see exactly what you're working on. And you can choose any model from any provider that we currently offer, and then you can code. For example, Grok 4.5 tends to be pretty good at UI. So you might want to do Grok 4.5 work for UI, and then you might want to do GPT 5.6 for wiring up the backend, and you might want to do Fable for orchestrating. Actually, it's really, really cool the way this works, because what another thing that Orion offers is the following. I can select my base model as Fable 5, and I can say, hey, I always say hey when I record videos for some reason. I have no idea why. So what feature do I want to work on? Say I wanted to build an alternative to GitHub. We are building an alternative to GitHub right here in this repo. Use, and this is the cool feature that I want to show you, use add Grok to build the UI, and then use add say Opus 5 for actual implementations. Use add Sol for computer use, because Sol is the best for computer use currently. Use and wiring up the back end in the variables plus deploying everything. And if you have any 3D workloads, then for 3D, we want to use Kimi, because Kimi is amazing at 3D. Just for fun, use Muse for something, because why not? And you can literally craft a prompt like this, and it will go ahead and it will do this. It will use all of these sub-agents as instructed in order to run this task and do an orchestrate. So the Fable 5 here would be the orchestrator, and it would use all of these models in order to more efficiently create the task. And you'd be able to track the sub-agents too. For example, currently I was working on a game, and I'm trying to fix the quality of the water. So the way the sub-agents work, we have a special sub-agents tab right here. You can collapse it if you don't want to see it, you can expand it. And then this is the main tab, and then all of the sub-agents that was spawned exist over here as they're all threads, and you can just click through them. This was inspired by Claude Code. Claude Code had the best view of sub-agents that I could find anywhere, even though it's a terminal. So I basically adopted a similar style view. And as you can see, Kimi has its own sub-agents as well, and you can see them the same way. So that's pretty cool. And as I built Orion, as I kept on working on this project I've been working on this for about 3 to 4 weeks now. I've been adding more and more features into it. And the way I've been adding features is by using it every day and finding my own pains and thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I did this? Or wouldn't it be cool if I did that? And then I just go ahead and add it. So one thing I've added yesterday, which has been immensely helpful so far, was the dev servers tab. So the dev servers tab shows you all of the dev servers that your agents have started and which ones are currently using it and which ones are not using it. So if I start a dev, if one of the agents in the thread, or even me separately. If I start a dev server, for example, I go ahead and start Orion. It's going to run on 5173. And as you can see, it tracks it over here. There's my Orion dev instance, and it's tracking it. So I can see all of the dev servers and I can kill them from here. So I don't have the dev server overflow, because a common problem that I was running into is my agents across multiple threads are starting dev servers one after the other and then tripping over themselves. And then they aren't able to start any more dev servers because it just says this port is in use, trying another one, and this port is in use, trying another one. And then I have like 7 or 8 dev servers running, and my activity log is getting cluttered by dev servers, and it's like using 760% of my CPU for whatever reason. Then I have to close all that in order to actually relieve my machine. But yes, I can just close them from here. And as you can see, it stopped. And it's not running anymore. The actual dev server is gone. So that is a pretty cool feature as well. But my point, back to my point. So this is a pretty cool way to code. And the reason I made this is because I was tired of having my agents just across everywhere, across my terminals, across my Codex desktop app, across whatever other desktop apps they are building, across mostly terminals, honestly, but also the desktop app. So I built one desktop app to rule them all. Another cool thing that Orion has that I haven't shown you yet is, before I show you, do you guys remember Cursor 2.0? Not the 3.0, not the current version that they have, but 2.0. When they just launched it, and there was this really cool feature where you could go to the agents tab and you can see all of the agents that they had. And then you could go to the code tab and you can see a code editor and you can just switch between them in one single window. I absolutely loved that. That was my favorite feature of Cursor. I was such a big fan of Cursor 2.0. I was like, oh my God, this is so freaking cool, because I can just switch between the tabs. I spent most of my time in the agents tab, but I also occasionally went to the code tab because I needed to edit some code manually. This was over a year ago now. What, maybe 7, 8 months actually. The time is flying so fast with this AI harnesses, tools, and models coming out almost every 2 weeks. Anyway, love that feature. Absolutely loved it. And then they removed it with the cursor glass coming out. There are now 2 different windows, which is extremely annoying. And you can't even open the same project with code. So for example, if you go ahead and if you're on the agents tab in the cursor, and then you go ahead, like, I might as well show you. So if you are in the agents tab, and then you want to open the editor window for, say, for example, for my Usmeta. I want to open the editor window for this. So what do? I click IDE. It opens the editor window, but what does it open? Oh, it opens Usmeta. Okay, fine, they fixed it. Before this, it just used to open whatever was open previously, so it didn't care about your actual project. So for example, let's go to Arna Unicorns, open in IDE. Okay, yeah, they definitely did fix it. Before that, it just opened whatever was previously open, which had nothing to do with the actual agent thread. But still, you see my problem. It has 2 different windows, and then for some reason it also has a chat UI. And this is just a VS Code extension, so you can use this to edit code. But they're 2 separate windows, and then you have to open one, then open the other, and then for some reason it opens here as well. It's like it's all over the place. I think Cursor is extremely cluttered, and then it opens this, and then yeah, it's just all over the place. So what I did was I tried to emulate that experience from Cursor 2.0. For example, if I go to Orion and I wanted to edit the code, and what do we even use to edit what use do we even have for editing the code manually these days? Well, putting in env variables, that's a good use case. So anyway, so I would go to the code tab, and I'm right here in Orion, the code tab, right? And then I can have a look at the code right here from my application. And then I can go back to agents. So I can switch between code and agents seamlessly. And it's very, very smooth, and it's very, very fast. And you can edit things like your .envs, .env files, add some variables here, things like that. It's pretty neat. Another thing Orion has is something I implemented from OpenCode, which is called the Rifts. Rifts is an open source library that the OpenCode team has been cooking, and I was very, very impressed with it. In the actual repo, it says experimental, do not use. I use it anyway. Seems to be working really, really well. Where do I even type to get it to surface on GitHub? DAX, OpenCode, Rifts, Anomaly Con. Yeah, basically it's in here somewhere. Rifts. Dun, 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 dun. Where is the Rift stuff? There. So this is basically what I've implemented into Orion. How does it work? Well, if I wanted to start, Rift is basically a work tree, but it's fast. It makes it within about 5 seconds, and it copies all of your env files, so it's directly usable. So for example, if I wanted to start something in a new Rift, all I would have to go is I would have to create an epic. An epic is a collection of threads, right? So I would create an epic and I would say optimize say quests, not for Ryan, say for my video game, optimize quests, and then I would create a Rift. It will take about 5 to 10 seconds, but it'll be pretty fast. Infinitely faster than work trees, by the way, and way, way, way better. Now the Rift is created, and the Rift is, as you can see, its own directory. So it's outside of the actual SkyCraft V1 directory. It's in a .rifts, and then it has its own directory and its own branch. So I can start threads in this Rift, and I can just say, hey, and then this is a thread in its own Rift, and the only thing this will do is it will edit the code base inside of this Rift. So I can start multiple Rifts of the same code base, and I can work on multiple features in parallel. And then once I'm comfortable with this, once I feel it's cool and it's done, all I have to do is just commit and push APR, right? So obviously no files have been changed. So for the purposes of the demo, let me change something. I'll just add some random thing into git ignore. Makes no difference. And then all I will do is I will commit and push the PR. When I commit and push the PR, the agent will write the summary of what's actually happened. And then it will create a PR for me. And that PR can be merged into the main code base and pulled locally so it reconciles with the current branch on main local from the Rift. So now that PR is being written, and once the PR is actually done, I'll be able to open it directly on GitHub, provided that this is a Git repository, which this one is. There we go. PR is open. Just click through it to see. And you can see this PR is written by Orion, by the agent. All it is does this. And then the PR is currently open. I'm not going to merge it, but you get the idea. And then once I'm happy with this, all I can do is settle this epic. And when I settle it, it basically leaves my sidebar. So it's not cluttering my sidebar anymore. Then if I wanted to, I could go to storage. And from storage, as you can see, my current Rifts are taking up 13.7 gigabytes of memory because obviously each Rift is a copy of the code base. So I can easily just free them up. It's not going to auto free unpushed work because we wouldn't want that since they're still active. But once they're done and settled, I can chuck them into trash. Or if I really wanted to, I can chuck them into trash manually from here. In case I know what I'm doing. Experimental is the Rifts, and all you have to do is just enable them. The other thing we have is Cloud Sync, and obviously this is completely up to you. You can turn it off. It comes as off by default, so you don't ever need to turn it on if you don't want to. But if you do turn it on, what it currently does is it syncs all of your threads and your code into the Orion web app. What is Orion web app, you might ask? Well, if you go to usage, you can see the total amount of tokens I have used. Basically, it's analytics for the usage of your, like for your usage across all of your projects and across all of your models. So as you can see, my most used model currently is Opus 4.5. I've spent 1.6 billion tokens across 151 threads. Fable is the next one. Then use the god awful lot of Kimi, then GPT 5.6 Sol, Grok build, Muse had one thread, spent 0 tokens. So this is a breakdown of all the models I've used and been using, and also the breakdown of the actual projects. As you can see, the most amount of tokens I spent was on the game that I'm building, 1.1 billion tokens. Then the second most amount of tokens was on Orion, and so on and so forth. And these are all my projects. And these are all of my current threads. Some of them are still running, some of them are done, others are idle, which means I haven't sent the prompt yet. And yeah, this is a pretty cool way to track your AI usage for your own purposes, or you can share this with somebody else, for example, like a potential employer, so they can have a look and see, oh, cool, this guy actually knows how to use AI. Then remember how I said that thing about building the alternative to GitHub? Well, I wasn't kidding. I am actually building an alternative to GitHub. So all of the projects that you're working on in Orion, they're synced through here. You can choose to sync them. You can choose not to sync them. I chose to sync them, so they're here. So you can just click through. And as you can see, all of your source code is here. So if you don't want to push to GitHub, you can just push to Orion. It supports everything that GitHub supports. It supports pull requests. It supports your code. It supports public and private repos. And it even supports the deployment of code, because I figured, why wouldn't I build something to deploy the code to the web? So I did. And as you can see, it's actually live on something random that I built. It's actually live on Orion. And all you have to do in order to deploy it is you just press the deploy button on the repository and it will deploy it. So this one is already deployed. And if I wanted to deploy some, it works exactly the same way Git would work. So you don't even need to use Orion in order to use Orion Web in order to deploy your repositories. All you have to do is just copy the string, and then the rest of it will work exactly like GitHub works. Git add, git commit, git remote add origin, this, and then git push, and it will push your repo into your account on Orion. There is the deploy button. If I press this, it will deploy this. It will deploy this application Usmera to the cloud, and I'll get a URL, something akin to this, .andromedas.dev. Andromedas is just another domain that I have for dev purposes. And yeah, you get a cool URL like that. So this was the purpose of this video. I just wanted to show you a really cool way that you can code that doesn't involve opening a bajillion tabs in your terminal, your Codex desktop app, or whatever other desktop apps that you're currently using. And I ship updates to Orion every single day. Every single day it's improving. Why is it improving every single day? Because I mostly find things that are wrong with it myself as I'm using it, and then I ship fixes and updates. And if you guys start using it, make sure to either message me directly on X or join the Discord server. Its Discord server URL is available on Orion itself. You just go to the footer and the Discord is right there. You can join the Discord server. I'll also post a link to it. And then you'll be able to comment on things and let me know if you find anything that needs fixing, or just submit an issue to GitHub. Because one thing that I think I haven't mentioned yet, but I definitely should, is that Orion is completely open source and free to use. So you can either just download it from the official page and use it, or what you can do is you can build it yourself. You can fork it, you can make any edits to it as you wish. Orion is open source, will always be open source. So do as you like with it and submit issues if you think something's wrong with it, submit PRs. I will obviously get to them because I love this project and I use it myself every single day. As you can see, 3 weeks, already 198 commits. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I wanted to give a special shout out to T3 Code and Theo T3 for actually inspiring me to build this thing in the first place. After I saw the Codex app, I thought, why the hell does Claude not have something similar yet in their arsenal? Because Claude desktop app is garbage and is completely unusable. So I thought, Wouldn't it be cool if you could just select models other than GPT models from this list and use it in a similar fashion? And then I decided, and then I saw T3. I then I saw T3. I saw Theo trying to build something along those lines, and I just decided to build my own version of it as well because I like the idea. I like building, so I decided why not. So T3 Code is a cool project. Orion is also a cool project. Was inspired by T3 Code. They're both open source. Orion has more features than T3 Code. T3 Hot has a lot of features that Orion doesn't have, but Orion also has a lot of features that T3 Hot doesn't have because these are the features I add because I feel like I want to use them. And that's the beauty of open source. You add your own features. Go ahead and use it. Let me know what you think. I'll post more videos about it. As I add more features, I'll post videos about my other projects. I'll post videos about tech in general, things that I'm passionate about. Have fun building.